Lauren, you should have the share screen at the bottom. Hopefully that's
great.
set up for you.
Yes, it's all set. Thank you. And we'll take questions at the end. We'll probably save unless somebody has an urgent question, and then type it in the chat, urgent. And then we can work from there. But ideally, we'll wait till the end of this thing. So maybe your question will get answered as we go. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Lauren Lehman. I'm General Counsel at the Office of Professional Regulation. And Tara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Tara Grenier, and I'm the Chief Licensing Administrator.
Thanks, Tara. So, and thank you all for having us here today. We're really excited to talk to folks about the new contracting law and to get the and registration law and to get the word out so that we can make this process as smooth and pleasant as possible and really give effect to the underlying purpose of the law. So without further ado, I'll jump right into our presentation here today. Here we go. I'm maximizing the screen. Come on. There we go. All right. So you've got our names here. So in 2022, after 5 years of discussion, the Vermont legislature adopted Act 182. In 2017, what happened was Vermont has a very strict policy when it comes to whether professions should be licensed. And the standard is that no profession should have a barrier to practice, such as a license requirement or any regulations, unless there's some finding of public harm from the unlicensed practice of that profession. And then if you do find a public harm, the type of regulation needs to be so narrowly tailored that it's the minimum necessary to protect the public and protect against that public harm. And when somebody requests licensure of a profession or regulation of a profession, our office undertakes what we call a sunrise review. And there's a number of standards we need to review in order to kind of evaluate whether a profession should be regulated. And then we present that to the legislature, and the legislature uses that as the basis of determining whether or not to regulate a profession. We, in 2017, reviewed home contractors, and the public harm found was that there's this space between small claims under $5,000 worth of damage and really big claims, like you blew up my house, $300,000, $300,000 worth of damage, where the public really had no recourse against fraud and against fraud, really financial fraud and really poor quality work. So something, like they left you without a boiler or they left a hole in your roof. And there was really no recourse for the homeowner in those situations. So what the legislature did after 5 years of debate was to establish, so they found that public harm, the minimum necessary to protect the public. And what they the form of regulation they chose was a registration. So registration, there's 3 forms of licensing. They go from so registrations are mandatory, but you don't need any qualifications in order to obtain that registration. Those are best for professions where we're trying to protect against, pull people from the market and give consumers an opportunity to say, okay, who's doing well, who's engaged in unprofessional public conduct, and to kind of identify and pull from the market those who have engaged in egregious behavior, not poor quality work or paint colors are wrong or my tile are crooked. None of that. Just you left a hole in my roof. The second level of the other forms of licensing, so that's mandatory and no qualifications. Then there's licensing, which is you need qualifications and it's mandatory. So those are things like dentists. We need to know you're qualified and you have to be licensed if you're going to practice dentistry in the state. The third level is certification, and there are some components of that in Act 182 too, and those are completely voluntary. You do not have to have them, but you need qualifications to obtain them. And it's a way to signal to the public in the marketplace, hey, I have the qualifications. The state has recognized I have the qualifications to be able to say I'm certified in this field. I could provide this service without the certification. I don't need the certification to provide this service, but because I have this certification, the marketplace who's looking for somebody who specializes in, energy efficiency or green building can find the certified professionals, those who have demonstrated the qualifications. Again, completely voluntary, but a signal to the marketplace. So those are the 3 levels. And now I'll kind of hop into the contractor specific areas. So again, the benefits for contractors of registration is that you can have some of the certifications. We can remove from the marketplace those contractors who violate the law and defraud homeowners who really engage in that egregious behavior. We can help contractors in disputes with the homeowner. These contract and insurance requirements in the law are actually for both parties. They're not just to protect the homeowner. They give the contractor protection as well. It gives us a list, a resource of who out there is practicing contractor. When we need to reach the profession as a state, for example, when we were doing the Sunrise Review or during COVID-19, when we were communicating with professions regularly about what was acceptable in terms of public interaction, we were unable to reach certain professions or certain people, but we were able to work closely with notaries and the healthcare professions and race car tracks and all those motor vehicle racing because we have those lists and those contacts, and so that was really helpful. And it's a great advertising tool for contractors. Consumers will have a resource on our website to find contractors who are licensed and in good standing in their area. And they can advertise that they're registered to do business in the state. And please forgive me, I sometimes use the term license to speak about registration because under the law, it's confusing. License can refer to all 3 forms of licensure, including licensure, registration, and certification. So I might use it interchangeably, but I'm referring to the registration. Public protection. So again, this is the purpose of the registration, is to be narrowly tailored to address these issues. Homeowner assurance, they'll be able to check the registry to make sure that that the contractor they've chosen and plan to do business with is registered and in good standing. If there are sanctions, the homeowner will be able to see what those sanctions are and choose to use the contractor anyway. Homeowners will be able to log a complaint, and unless complaints about poor quality work or minor disputes are not going to rise to the level of being prosecuted by OPR. And I should say there's extensive due process. So you're not, if somebody files a complaint, it's not just like, oh, your registration's dinged. No, there's a whole investigation. We have law enforcement investigators. They'll look into it. If there's no unprofessional conduct found or the level of unprofessional conduct is minimal, there will be no follow-up. It'll be just dismissed. If there is some investigation beyond that, then it'll be, there's thorough investigation. They'll talk to you, they'll talk to witnesses, they'll talk to folks before they even get to filing charges and hearings and all of that. And the complaint is completely confidential. So none of this is public until there's actual due process, a hearing, charges filed, etc. And all of that would just be about egregious behavior. So over time, OPR's process will help consumers kind of identify contractors they want to do business with and avoid those who have engaged in deceptive processes. And the insurance requirement will protect both the insurer and the public, the homeowners. So how's it defined? Who needs to be registered? So residential contracting is defined as building, demolishing, or altering a residential dwelling unit or a building or premises with 4 or fewer residential dwelling units. We're not talking businesses. We're not talking warehouses. We're not talking apartment buildings. We're talking one residential dwelling unit or 4 or fewer residential dwelling units. And then any work on those on the residential unit. So interior, including but not limited to painting, interior, exterior construction, renovation and repair, paving, roofing, weatherization. So I guess the driveways connected to the unit, and that would be the paving, weatherization, and then installation or repair of heating, plumbing, solar, electrical, water, or wastewater systems. If you're working on the barn on a property, if you're doing landscaping on the property, this does not apply. And then who's required to register is any residential contractor who performs residential construction where the estimated value is $10,000 or more, inclusive of labor and materials. So who's required to register? This is kind of a visualization of that. We'll see some big list of exemptions in the next slide. If you're not working on a residential dwelling unit or your work is under $10,000 per contract, you don't need to register with OPR. If you've done any, after April 1st, 2023, any contract where any work that's going to be more than $10,000 on a residential contractor unit, residential dwelling unit, it's over $10,000 inclusive of labor and materials, you need to register with OPR. So who's not required? Who's exempt? Employees of a business registered with OPR. We'll talk about the 2 forms of registration, 2 types of registration in a minute. But if you are just working for a business and the business is registered with OPR, you don't need to. You do not need to register separately. As long as you're not independently entering into contracts for work over $10,000, then you can just use your employer's registration. If you already have a license with the state, a professional license with the state as an engineer, an architect, with DPS as a tradesperson, when you're working within the scope of that license, then you are exempt. So if you are a registered electrician and you are not engaged in carpentry work, but you're engaged in electrical work, you're exempt. If you start doing carpentry work for more $10,000 or more, you need to register. So when one of those licensed people is on staff and the work is being performed by that licensed person or supervised primarily by that licensed person, the business doesn't need to register. So if you have a licensed engineer or architect on staff and they're the ones who are performing the work or they're the ones supervising those performing the work, you don't need to register your business. Delivering or installing consumer appliances, AV equipment, telephone or computer network equipment, no registration. Working on a structure that's not attached to a residential building, a garage or a barn that's not attached. In an emergency, if you need to step in and pipes have burst and you're just trying to get that person a space to live in, you can do it after. You can register after the fact. And then subcontractors. The person who needs to register with OPR is the one who's signing the contractor with the homeowner. If you're a subcontractor working for a contractor who's working directly with the homeowner, you don't need to register separately. We've been talking about 2 different types of registration. There's the individual for residential contractors who are self-employed and don't have any employees. And then there's the business registration for contractors who have employees working for them. And then those employees aren't registered or required to register separately. If you have questions about what an employee is versus an independent contractor, that's a very complex tax question. IRS can help you with that. Your lawyer can help you with that. It comes down to 3 factors, I believe, that you have to kind of assess. So when does this all start? We opened applications on December 1st of last year, and you have to register. It's required by April 1st, 2023. And so that gives folks 5 months to get licensed or 4 months to get licensed. And we'll talk about the sliding scale fee scale in a moment. The requirements when you're logging on to register, You'll need to complete an online application with the Office of Professional Regulation. You'll go to our website, which is sos.vermont.gov/OPR. And you can find an online registration button. I can walk you through that in a minute. I'll walk through the screen sharing in a minute, but so from there, you'll set up an account, you'll log in, you'll pay your application fee. You'll need to have your insurance documentation ready to upload, your minimum liability insurance. And then you'll have to attest in the application that you have a written contract that complies with the requirements of the law. As you can see, there's a sliding scale of fees. So those who are early registrants, excuse me, who registered before March 31st, it's $25. Between April 1st, 2023 and March 31st, 2024, so in that first year, your registration fee is $50. And then if you're late to the game and you come in after March 31st, 2024, the fee will be up to $75. Of course, this might not be late to the game. You might not need to register until that point, but we're kind of easing folks into this process. Your business registration fees are higher. They'll start at $175 though, and again, they'll increase. So early adopters, that was the word I was looking for, early adopters will have the benefit of a lower fee. Oh, my blank slide. So the contract, that's a huge issue folks are concerned about. It's really a very simplistic template, and this is the content. Now, OPR will have a template up on our website that folks can use. What we have included on the website and is included here is what's required by the law for licensing. It is not a contract that will protect your business interests all around. For those things, for indemnity clauses and severance, all those things, you should consult with a private attorney or any other party if you want to have a contract that reflects your business interests specifically, or your associations. They might have some more work that they can do with you. However, in terms of what OPR provides and the contract we provide, it's merely to check the boxes of the statutes. So who enters into the contract? Excuse me. It'll be the contractor or the business that's registered with OPR. So whoever the check is made out to, essentially, and the homeowner. And the reason is to protect the homeowner and the contractor in the event of a dispute. And we'll have a template that I can show you as well. The timing should be prior to receiving a deposit or prior to commencing residential construction work. And of course, the trigger is the estimated value of labor and materials is $10,000 or more. So the contract content, it needs to have a price in it, and then the price should be one of the following: the maximum price for all work and materials, or the statement, billing and payment will be made on a time and materials basis not to exceed the maximum price, or the statement, billing and payment will be made on a time and materials basis, there is no maximum price. So really that that's three very flexible statements, allows for all kind of organization of payment, but it does require reflecting the party's intent about what the price will be and how it'll be paid. The work dates, the estimated start dates and the estimated completion dates, the scope of work. It doesn't have to be exhaustive, but a description of the services to be performed and a description of the materials to be used, and also a change order provision. So anytime, and this happens frequently during the process, during the project, there's a change made, an amendment to the intent of the scope of work or price or what have you, that amendment and change needs to be reflected in writing, and it should go into the change order provision. And once it's in writing, it should be signed by both parties. The down payments are still acceptable. There are some limits. If the contract includes a maximum price for all work and materials, or a statement that'll be made on time and materials basis with a maximum price, the down payment cannot exceed the maximum price, and the contract may require a down payment of up to 1/2 the cost of labor to the consumer, or 1/2 the price of the materials, whichever is greater. If the contract specifies that there is no maximum price, you can require a down payment that's negotiated between the parties. So other scenarios, some contractors, again, don't need to register. If you're not a homeowner contracting with a homeowner directly, you're not subject to the requirements of this law. Family and friends, if you're receiving money, if you're working in exchange for consideration, and the cost of the work is greater than $10,000, regardless of who you're doing the work for, you do need to register. So even if it's a family and friend, if you're getting paid for the work, excuse me, you do need to register. Complaints. So there's an option, and again, I'll walk us through the OPR website in a minute, but there's an option for filing a complaint. And you can file a complaint right on our website. OPR cannot award money damages, mediate disputes, inspect quality, or pursue misconduct by people who aren't required to register as residential contractors. So bad landscaper, for example. There is a organization in Vermont called CAP. It's a consumer assistance program through UVM and the Attorney General's office, and they can help mediate those disputes. So if a complaint is filed with them, they might reach out to you and help you walk through that, that dispute and try to come to some resolution. That's not us. We work with them, we'll help with them, but OPR usually works on the OPR works on the side of if a contractor or licensed professional is engaged in unprofessional conduct. So an egregious standard, kind of high standard of misconduct. And again, we're not going to be engaged in dispute resolution about, well, they said they'd be done by March 31st and they were done by April 12th, or the bead board wasn't as straight as we wanted. That's not OPR. We do have a process, as I mentioned earlier, for conducting a thorough review and investigation of complaints. Complaints are confidential until charges are filed. So please do not be concerned that there will be a flurry of Yelp reviews out there now on the OPR website. Registrants will have due process rights in front of OPR if charges are pursued, and you'll be heard before a judge and who's our administrative law officer. And again, we're not going to be a venue for resolving billing or quality disputes. CAP can help resolve those. There's the court system for those, but it's not OPR's job. We're really more of a removing folks from the market if they've engaged in egregious behavior. And here are some additional web resources that we'll share this slideshow with Bryn, and she can share it with folks to access these resources. There's some questions. So before I hop into questions, I'm actually gonna show a couple of more resources, including our contract template. I have to open it up here. And then I'll also work through, I'll show our website. I'll find it here. So I'll start with our contract. And this will be on our website soon. We're finalizing the language on it. I'm waiting for my Word to open here. There we go. And now it won't move. There it goes. Brother. There we go. Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. So here's a sample contract. We have to clarify this language up top, but essentially it's saying what I said earlier, which is This reflects the requirements from the statute. It does not reflect the best contract possible for your business and your, so associations, trade associations, or a personal attorney would be the best entity to kind of consult from some of those provisions. The contract should reflect the homeowners' names and their addresses, both their physical property address you're doing the work on and their mailing address if different. Same for the contractor name, business name, your license number, physical address and mailing address if different. And then here's the substance. This contract is made and entered to on a specific date and specifies the terms of the agreement between the name of the homeowner and the contractor. Here's your estimated dates of work, estimated start date, estimated completion date. Here's where you describe the services to be performed and the materials to be used. Here's where you'd put the change orders. And of course, if it goes over, you can always write it on a separate piece of paper and staple it or just associate it with the document electronically. And it would be just as good as being part of the contract. And you could write in here, see attachment A. Price, you could describe here what your price is going to be, either one of these statements or just the maximum price. And then how the down payment's going to be taken. And then signatures. It's that simple. So very basic, covers the terms required in the contract, does not cover indemnity, liability, any of those things that are personal to your business. You want to work with a private attorney or an association. And then I'll hop over now to our website and help folks navigate that. Because we have lots of resources here. And of course, we're always here to help. But if we're not immediately available, we work to make sure that this is. So if you ever have questions, or try here first, and you can always reach out to us as well. So again, it's sos.vermont.gov/OPR. If you're trying to apply for a license, you would go to apply, renew. And then you can access and create an account, and then it'll take you through that licensing process we talked about. Come with your insurance policy ready to upload, be ready to attest that you have a contract, have that contract, so you're not lying when you're testing, because that's just an essential background piece there. But the only thing you'll have to upload, you'll have to also, I should mention, you have to answer certain questions. OPR is not permitted to grant licenses to folks who are delinquent in their taxes or delinquent in child support. For those, however, what we tell it, folks sometimes have challenges with those things. And if they're in touch with the tax department or the child support services and have an agreement and a payment plan, then we can grant the license. If you're just delinquent and haven't even touched the issue, we're going to ask you to kind of to figure that out before we can grant you the license. We also have some fitness questions you'll be asked. They are not automatic denials of licenses, but if you say, I've got a substance abuse problem that prevents me from being able to perform my duties capably, we're going to have some questions for you. But it doesn't, or the other one is, do you have a criminal history or any issues with having your license disciplined in other states before? Again, be forthcoming, be honest. It's not an automatic stop. Most of the time, you'll still get licensed and we'll get you through. Where we have problems are when people lie and we find out that you did have an issue, and then we have to take pre-denial issue. We have to deny the license or work through that process often. So be honest, be forthcoming, be upfront. We'll get through it. We have the whole team here helping you get licensed. We want to get you licensed. Don't lie. If you lie, then we have to be more stern about it and often have to deny. So that's my warning. So that's more general. How do you get to that? Well, how do I find out about contractors? You can go to professions, and Tara and I have to discuss this. I think even though they're called residential contractors, we might need to move it the alphabet here. So I don't know if folks are going to scroll down to residential. They're going to be looking for contractors, but right now it's residential contractors, and then you have a whole page dedicated to this profession. We've got your statutes, rules, and resources here. We've got forms and instructions. These FAQs are built around questions we've been asked often and can answer a lot of your questions that you may have. We have advisors who are advising us on the development of the rules, and these are their meeting times. And so I'll hop over here, and then online services, that's also another place where you can register and start your account. So here it gives you a link to the contracting statutes, the statutes governing all professions. Here's a link to that CAP program. Here's an informational poster that Tara put together, which is great if you're trying to point your peers, and we would love if folks posted this places toward OPR. So to let them know this is available. You can navigate to all those places on this left. You can file a complaint and conduct decision we'll get to in a minute, but forms and instructions. Here's the other, we'll have the sample residential contractor agreement up here when it's ready, the sample contract. And then we'll have the application instructions already up here. And then complaints and continuing education, or I'm sorry, complaints and conduct. So you can click there and click just file a complaint and update it. If you're looking for somebody's conduct decision, you can do it through there. You can also do it from the front page. So I'm back to the main page here, and one of the options is file a complaint. You can do it through there. And that's all I have. I'm sorry to stop on the complaint note, but if anybody has any questions, Tara, do you have anything to add before?
I do have a couple things I'd like to add. Thank you, Lauren. I wanted to mention, and the question, as I was thinking about it, just came in. So thank you, Eric. You said you had tried to register and it seemed like it was built for individuals and not businesses. That's a really good point. When people log in to their account, what you're going to see is an individual, what we call an individual dashboard, and it says apply for individual license. That is where every contractor is going to go to initiate the application process, regardless of if you are registering yourself as an individual or if you're registering yourself as a business who has employees. The application is going to ask you questions and put you in the right bucket, if you will. So it's going to ask you if you have employees, and that one application is going to kind of drive the process. The application instructions, I hope, make that clear, but please, and this is an open invitation, if anything, as you all are navigating this process is not clear, please let us know, because if something is on our website that's not clear, we want to make it clear. So that is, again, an open invitation. So I hope that answers your question, Eric. I was thinking about that just as you put it in. So everyone's going to go in and apply for individual license. And I think that was the only thing I wanted to add, Lauren. I did have another thought, but it escaped me. So if it comes back, I will raise my hand. But
of course, and you can always just jump in. So anytime. So I'm looking at the questions in the chat at this point. The payment terms are required. So that's what I'm seeing here. So the forms of payment are, I believe, required. I'm looking at the statute right now.
Forms of payment, Lauren, is that the question?
Well, can they go beyond what's listed in the and no, I believe the way that you would do the pricing that would be different, and payment that would be different, would just have the statement that it's on time and materials with no maximum, because yeah, that would be the basis for payment.
And if you just read the question out, that could be helpful for folks watching the recording later on.
Sorry, Bryn, thank you. The question from Steve Spatz is, are contractors required to draft contracts that only use one of these contract terms for payment? How much flexibility do they have in creating their own terms of payment with their customers? So the terms of payment can be pretty flexible. What needs to happen, though, is it needs to be one of those systems of payment, right? On time and materials with no maximum, time and materials, this is the maximum, or this is the maximum with no time and materials. if you want to set, and I think somebody else had a question, Laura, down that was, what if there's no down payment? What do you do if there's no down payment in the contract, like being paid on a % complete basis, was Paul Sippel's question. And the answer to that is, so you could have the terms of payment be whatever. You're paying 75% on X date, you're paying 25% on Y date. But if you and if you're taking a down payment, you could take no down payment. You could say, I'm not taking any down payment, we're waiving the down payment. If you take a down payment, though, you should not exceed one of those things in the law. So it cannot be more than the cost of labor or the cost of materials, or 50% of the cost of labor, or 50% of the cost of materials, whichever is greater. Or if there's a maximum price, can't be more than half the maximum price. So as long as you're within those limits, you can fashion the terms however you'd like. I hope that addresses Steve and Paul's questions. Zachary, your name is cut off, so I'm assuming it's Zachary, but you say Habitat for Humanity builds homes for its affordable home ownership program. It's not clear to me whether we or our site supervisor, who's an employee in charge of building the houses, need to register with the contractor registry. So Zachary, if you are receiving $10,000, you're signing the contracts with the homeowners and receiving directly from the homeowner $10,000 or more, you need to register. If you're getting paid a salary by Habitat for Humanity that's signing a contract with the homeowner, you do not need to register. If you if Habitat for Humanity is not receiving any money from the employee directly, but rather from the homeowner directly, but rather from the state and grants, or the bank, they're receiving money from the bank and the homeowner then pays the bank and there's a tri-party agreement there, nobody needs to register with OPR. It's if you're directly contracting with the homeowner to receive $10,000 in compensation for residential contract work. I hope that answers your question. Hannah, does a contract need to be filed with the state prior to work commencing? No, you never need to file your contract with the state. You need to attest that you have a contract. You need to have a contract with the homeowner. And that will, as if we find out that you're doing work, that might be a complaint. Somebody says, I worked with this registered contractor, they never gave me a contract, they skipped it all. That might be a complaint to OPR, in which our investigators come in and say, hey, you need to have a contract. Charges might be filed if you don't have a contract, if it's found you don't. And then there would be you might, for example, have your license warned or reprimanded. And that would be reflected in our system as they were warned and reprimanded for not having a contract with their license or with their homeowners. A homeowner could still choose to do business with you and might be more emphatic about you having a contract at that point. So that's kind of how that could play out.
Lauren, can I add one more point to that before we move on to the next question?
Tara, you in these early days, you might just be reminded by our investigators you need a contract. I don't know that they'll be going full prosecution on folks who make a mistake every now and then. Tara, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this question is in the chat, but it is one that has come up recently. And so this seemed like a good place to put it in. And we're going to be adding it to our website because it's not there currently. But one thing that's come up is, do residential contractors need a new registration every time they enter into a new contract? And the answer is no. If you have one registration with the office, then that covers every contract that you enter into. It's not a registration per contract. It's a registration to enter into a contract. So I'm not sure if that's in here, but it seemed like a good thing to mention at this point.
Thank you, Tara. Yes, and that registration lasts 2 years, and you'll be asked to renew it every 2 years. And that'll be sufficient for those 2 years and any contracts you enter into. Another question we've gotten is, what if I have a contract that I entered into last year, but I'm not starting the work on until 2025 or 2024? That's exempt. You don't need, you don't need to register on the basis, and you don't need to comply with the standards of the rules of the law for that contract. It's after April 1st of this year. If you enter into a contract for $10,000 or more with the residential homeowner, then you need to comply with this. I had one organization say, well, we used to work on a handshake basis. And our contracts from July 2022 were not starting until this fall. Do we need to go back and get a contract with them? No, not under the law. It might be good for your business to do it, but not under the law. So, who's the certificate holder on the GL insurance certificate? That would have to be the person who's registering. So if you are registering, you're the one, whoever's contracting with the homeowner should be the one on the insurance policy. So if your business is contracting with the homeowner, then your business needs to be on the insurance certificate. If you're contracting with the homeowner, then you need to be on the insurance certificate. So your work needs to be covered. There are not currently any penalties if you don't register. So until April 1st, 2024, there will be no penalties for not registering and be engaging in this work. If you do after April 1st, 2024, engaging in residential contracting for compensation over $10,000 at a time and not registering could result in a fine for unauthorized practice. So there could be fines up to $1,000 per instance, or no, $2,500 per instance through OPR. There can also be criminal and civil fines in the courts. So there are penalties for not registering. You do get a full year to get up to speed and to get into the practice of registering. But after April 1st, 2024, you will be subject to fines if you, in prosecution, if you're engaged in the practice without a registration. Kathy Codling asks, what happens with the contracts we already have, or is this just for any new contracts? So Kathy, I hope I answered your question. It's just for contracts after April 1st, 2024. Any previous contracts won't be affected. Paul Sipple asks, an individual can also be incorporated. Can that person register individually? Whoever's signing the contract should register. So if your corporation, your corporation as an individual. So if you're individually hold a corporation and you're signing the contracts for your corporation and your corporation's insured, your corporation should be registered. If you don't have any, well, Tara, even if they don't have any employees, right?
Say that again, Lauren.
So even if they don't have any employees, but they're an individual and they're signing contracts as a corporation and their insurance is as a corporation, they need to register as a business, correct?
Our registration, it's whether you're registering as a business or an individual, is based on employees, not necessarily how you are. Not necessarily your LLC, but I think that's something we should think through and add to the website a little bit. There's nothing prohibiting it. You can, but our law is based on the employee factor. But I think you absolutely can register as a business, and then if you get employees down the road, that's you don't have to redo anything. I hope that helps. And Lauren, we should maybe discuss that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Paul, I think to your point, you could register as an individual. We would want to know when you're registering, we do want to know your business names, etc. So if you were Paul Sipple LLC, you could register as an individual, but we'd ask you to list Paul Sipple LLC as one of your business names or doing businesses as, so that if we have a contract or we see your insurance with that name on it or that corporation name on it, we can associate it with you. So Paul Belaski asks, in that quick overview of the model contract, it appeared to list specific dates of construction and not estimated dates. Does that matter in court? It could. I mean, I think in court, you're going to argue a lot of factual questions. Again, this is a template. So if you wanted to put estimated dates in there, you could put the word estimated. That's allowed under the law, and you could put that there. It's a good correction we can make. If you don't and you have specific dates there and then you miss the dates, and you don't have any records showing that you've renegotiated the dates and the times, yeah, I don't know what the court would find on that. There could be a lot of factors that they could find that you agreed to that, or that the other part, the homeowner agreed to that delay. Paul asks, what do you do if there's no down payment? We addressed that already. You can, as long as the down payment's within the limits provided in the law, you can frame those terms however you'd like, percentages or absolute amounts. If it's percent on a complete basis, I would treat that as no down payment, and you don't have to have a down payment. You could, but I'd recommend just professionally that you reflect that agreement in a contract. Eric, I think Tara addressed your question before about it seemed that there was only individuals and not businesses. Again, once you get into the individual application, there's an option for business or individual. Does an LLC that's already listed with the state need this license? Yes, that's Richard Bax's question. LLCs are registered as corporations. That's a corporate license. It's not OPR. It doesn't have to do with your profession. You need to get this as a profession-specific registration separately. Daniel Clark says, when I go to register a business, the drop-down menu and select profession does not include contractors. So Daniel, you're going to want to register as an individual license. That's a little confusing. We'll put that in the instructions. You register as an individual, and then there's an option within the application to choose business or individual. Thank you for sharing that link, Bryn. Can a smaller contractor register now at $25 price? Yes, absolutely. You can register anytime. Even if you don't have $10,000 contracts yet now, if you anticipate them in the future, please be proactive. Absolutely. And then you don't need to worry about it when you get that contract being like, oh, do I need to go hop on? And if a contract goes above, you have an $8,000 contract, there's a couple change orders, now you're at $11,000. You got to go register before you can accept it, come back. I completely recommend Amanda Benway's approach of being proactive. Steve Spat says, there's an April deadline for registration. How is OPR getting this information out to the greater residential construction trade market? What marketing and resources are available to let contractors know of this obligation? And as noted in an earlier question, how will penalties be enforced beyond the deadline to register? So thank you, Steve. So first of all, we're doing our best. We looked through all of our corporations data and found all contractor related companies in the state. We emailed them, and then we did an good old fashioned Google search. And then we emailed 22,000 people based on those searches. We are able to track who opened that. I think the last count was 12,000, Tara. So we've got a percentage. You're on mute, Tara.
I haven't looked recently, but I was following that closely for a while, and it was quite a lot, but definitely not as many as we had hoped. And this might be a good time to mention that after today, we wanted to get a sense of kind of the questions, get the website updated accordingly, and another communication will be going out within the next week. Again, to that same group, 22 to 25,000 people. That poster on the website, we're hoping that hardware stores, well, that'll be part of the outreach. Hang them up, tell a friend. That's part of the reason for that 1 year, because it is new to an unregulated profession.
And with OPR, you know, we're also looking at doing FPF and radio, Front Porch Forum radio as well. We've got the advertisement. We're doing these presentations to you. We worked with SIBO last week, and we're happy to do these presentations more. It's always a challenge. And again, that's part of the reason to have the registry is we know who's out there practicing, and this is a way to reach out. But we don't have the best ways to do it. And we do have that 1 year kind of leeway to help get the word out. And then penalties won't be enforced until after this first year, till April 1st, 2024. And then after that, they'll be enforced through prosecution. You'll get notice that you're practicing without a license. You'll have the option to fix that. If you we have, and then there's different factors about whether they'll prosecute based on that.
And that's only for unauthorized practice. There are other forms of unprofessional conduct that can be investigated and prosecuted in that year, but the unauthorized practice is specifically that year window, just to make sure that.
If you engage in fraud, if someone engages in fraud, theft, some other egregious behavior between now and then they attempt to register on April 1st, 2024, and we have that complaint, we'll have that complaint and we'll be able to use that in making a licensing decision from there. How is this being enforced? It feels a lot like the lead renovation requirement. So this is different, Aaron, in that this is being enforced. Oh, maybe it's not different. This is being enforced by complaints. So if your homeowner complains, and it's being enforced by us, we'll have rules established by us reaching out and doing outreach. Like, we're the proactive part, and then we've got a reactive part, which is our prosecution team and enforcement team. So we try to do as much pro-action as possible and help people comply. If that's not possible and there's an enforcement issue, it's enforced based on complaints. We have 7 law enforcement team members who are charged with investigating all complaints for the 51 professions. They evaluate complaints to see if they rise to the level of unprofessional conduct. If they do, then we have 4 prosecutors who will file charges, and those charges will then the person, the contractor, will have the opportunity to respond to those charges, and then have a hearing before an administrative law officer. If it is then found that the contractor engaged in unprofessional conduct, their license can be warned, reprimanded, suspended, revoked. So that's how we do enforcement. At the same time, our law enforcement works closely with local and state law enforcement and criminal and civil. So if you've engaged in fraud to a level of criminal activity, our law enforcement will be working likely with the state's attorney, local law enforcement, and parallel with criminal prosecution. So that's how it's enforced. So Amanda Benway says, for growing business, if someone registers as an individual and then later hires employees, is it easy to change from an individual to a business license? Tara, do you respond to that?
Yes. Reach out to us. We'll work with you to make sure you're in the right license type. If you have any trouble, you should just be able to go in and re-register, but we will work with you on that. So reach out to us if that happens, and we'll make it as smooth as possible.
So Polly, I think I misunderstood Polly's question from before. She meant the contract of insurance that they submit to OPR. You do, if that changes, you should update that with OPR. And again, as Tara said, you can reach out to us. Judith Roy is our licensing administrator who'll be working with the contract profession. She'll mostly be the one answering those questions, and she can help you make that change in the system. Can the contract template you have on the website be used by contractors without specific permission? Are there any copyright issues? It sounded as if the contract might be updated. Can you clarify? So that's Matthew Weir. Yes, please take it, use it. Be aware that it does not protect your business interests or cover all legal components. It only covers, so it only covers what's required by the licensing law. It's not going to protect you in indemnity clauses and other kind of components of contract law or business law. And if you don't care about that, then just use our contract. That's fine. There's no copyright issues. We own nothing in the government. It's all public. And it will be updated and put on our website. Right now, there's just a vacancy. It just says coming soon on our website, but we'll update it with the correct info. Please touch on workers' comp and employee subclassifications. I wish I could, Gianni, but that has nothing to do with it. So, workers' comp and subclassification, that's all IRS law and all labor law. Really, it's not involved here, unless I'm misunderstanding the question. There really shouldn't be any of those components in the law are required to be considered in choosing whether to register. Glad to hear that, Steve. Steve says thanks for that level of outreach. And we welcome your outreach as well. So we're glad to hear from Bryn that you'll have this recorded. If you know folks, we've heard some misinformation out there, whether it's mandatory or voluntary, whether it got vetoed and is even the law or not. It is the law. It is mandatory. So anytime that, and we're here for questions. So we need your voices. If you have ideas on outreach, please let us know. Other groups that you think we could speak with, love to hear it, and we're happy to work. When registering in advance, what is the attestation process? It's the same. So you would attest, you have the contract ready to go, and you have the insurance. Matthew says, excuse my simple-minded nature. In a nutshell, register a business, do great work, i.e. clear contracts and communication, produce excellent products for any, and life is good. Well, Matthew, yes. I don't find that simple-minded. If you work in professional regulation, you know nothing is simple in any of the 51 professions. But yes, and it is a different mode of practice for folks. So I don't know that it's that simple, honestly. Contracting is intimidating. Insurance is intimidating. I think it's the minimum necessary really to protect the public with some of the behaviors we've seen lately. We've all heard in the news about folks who've put their life savings into fixing their roof, and the guy disappears the next day. It's happened 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years. And that's what we're trying to fix. We're not trying to fix the disputes about, again, about aesthetics, about timing. We're really trying to get at that small detail. And that's why this is very minimal. There's no qualifications to register. You just need to have insurance so that if, Joe Schmo goes and does this, and they might still do this. And that's the other argument. Well, they're not going to register. Well, but if we find them, we can prevent them from ever registering. If the public wants to choose a contractor that they know and can be sure about sending $75,000 to, they can go to our website and find that person that is in good standing and registered. They're not just going to give it to their neighbor, hopefully. So that's kind of why we're doing this. It's basic. It's hopefully minimal. I know there's a big learning curve, but hopefully once we get up there, we'll be good. And it will be a tool that we can use to protect the public. Brittany says, working for a contractor who's coordinating the work for the homeowner, do both have a contractor or the one coordinating the work? Have to have a contractor. Whoever's signing the contract, Brittany. So whoever is assigning the contract and an agreement with the homeowner to take the money needs to be registered. So if the coordinator is getting a separate check for the homeowner to do the coordination and the contractor is getting a check to do the work, they both need to register. Tara referred to a poster for hardware stores. That lives on the OPR website. I'm going to put the link right now in the that's the chat, or that's the contract. In the chat, I'm going to put the link in the chat here for everybody, so you have that poster. Where I put that in and I lost. There we go. Okay. And Chris Pierce says, what is the reporting process for persons suspected to be out of compliance? Chris, that's that complaint button I showed you on the website. I'll show it again really quickly. It's over here. You go to the OPR website. So sos.vermont.gov OPR, and you'll see at the top complaints and conduct. You file a complaint. Our 7 investigators review this regularly, and they'll go through the complaints and they'll determine whether, and they'll follow up from there. You'll receive a letter, if not a phone call, pretty soon after you file it. So let's see. Is there a cost to registering? Yes. So there's, Norman, there's $25 until April 1st of this year for an individual. Then it's $50 starting April 1st of this year through April 1st of next year. Starting April 1st of next year, it's $75, and it'll be $75 going forward. For a business, it starts at $175 right now. It goes up to $200 on April 1st of this year and $225, right, Tara? By April 1st next year, if I'm remembering correctly.
I'll have to go look for the businesses, but that sounds right. I'll do that and confirm back in a second.
In the PowerPoint, so I can look. I was just being lazy. No, it goes up to two. So it's 175 before April 1st or March 31st this year. Beginning April 1st this year, it goes up to 200. And then beginning April 1st next year, it goes up to 250. It's for a business. But I was correct about the individual. 25 now, 50 April 1st, 75 next year. And that's good for 2 years. Our proposals and billings to the clients quite often include subcontractor invoices. We asked for their W-9, COI, hold harmless, and proposals to keep on file. Will this stay the same, or will the registration process eliminate some of that? Polly, I think it'll stay the same. Your internal practices for managing subcontractors, which sound great, should remain that, because those subcontractors are not separately registering with the state. The only ones the states are concerned about are those who are interacting and contracting directly with the homeowner. So you're going to want that internal assurance, especially because you'll be kind of responsible for the subcontractors' work on, as you all are now, for the subcontractors' work on the house for the homeowner. Thank you, Matthew. I hope you're well as well. Once Amanda Benway says, once registered, do we get a badge or something that can be added to our website to advertise we are licensed by OPR? You'll get a license. So you'll get an actual license with the Secretary of State's signature on it, a state seal, an OPR seal, Secretary of State seal, some sort of seal that looks official, and your name and your license number. It's a state, and their name and your license number. So you'll be able to put that wherever you want it. You can frame it and hang it up. Daniel Dunham says, how would a homeowner be protected if a person is to buy a brand new tape measure, get licensed with the state, and start construction with zero experience? Having a license does not mean being experienced. It does not, Daniel. But if that person did that and is successful, and there's no fraud or any just kind of like egregious behavior, blowing up their entire plumbing system without any experience, fine. If that person goes in and says they're, a qualified to do plumbing, and they do plumbing, it's then the homeowner files a complaint and says this person had no experience whatsoever. They lied to me about it, and they took apart my plumbing and put it backwards, and now it's completely dysfunctional. That might be something we investigate. Because that can rise to the level of being egregious. And then that would be marked on that person's registration forever. 100% perfect? Absolutely not. Moving towards some indication to the public to choose somebody who's registered with experience. Experience is something we can't count, but who's registered, and then the homeowner needs to call the registered people in good standing if they want, or folks who have other issues, with some reprimands, call them, say, what's your experience level? Give me references. Let me talk to those references. That's still on the homeowner. But to the extent that somebody wants to say, hey, I want somebody who has not been disciplined by the state, who's registered and in our area, that's what this will facilitate. Thanks, Dan. Errol Blau says, in the application, there's a request for your Vermont business registration. I'm not seeing a PDF download on the online corporate page. Will a screenshot suffice? Thank you, Errol. That's a good point. And I'll hop over there now because that is, and I'll that has been a challenge. And I should have mentioned that in the slides, that you do need your business registration if you're registering your business. So I'm going to go to the Vermont Secretary of State and Business Services. I think, where's our business search now? See, this is,
It's down, Lauren.
they've changed, this is another division.
Yeah. I think it's down even more. Right there. Oh, sorry.
Where? Searches? Oh, I see.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So you go to the business search page. I'm gonna, let's see, do we have somebody want to volunteer their business name for me to look up here? Nobody. Wild Branch Builders. Okay, so.
And while Lauren's looking that up, I'll just add that a PDF, a download PDF and upload is certainly preferable, but as long as we have the information and we can read it, someone asked if a screenshot was acceptable, and I would say that it is, as long as it's the information, we can read it, it's legible.
Right. So that's absolutely fine if you take a screenshot. The other way to do is to go to filing history here on your registration, and then your business formation document. And that should give you that. And then you can download it and upload it. The biggest part, as you could see for me, was finding the business search. So again, I'm going to go back here to this. So you'll go to this sos.vermont.gov, business services, and then don't get tricked here. Go all the way down to searches and select businesses. And then you can just type in your name and you're at the old screens again. Okay.
And I think we have this as an FAQ on the website, but I just made a note for myself to make sure to check so that we have the direct link for folks on there as well.
Okay. So our website says you pay $250 for a business now, Tara. We should probably update that to say that it's sliding scale.
Yes.
Thanks for pointing
Thank
that out.
you.
John says, can you send a link to the website? Absolutely. As you can see from our presentation, it's my favorite tool. It is, again, we have 51 professions, so it's not always most intuitive until you get to your website. And then once you're on your profession's website, it's very intuitive. Can you go over the difference between registering and licensing again? Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so it's about qualifications and mandates. So with registration, it's mandatory. You must do it, but you don't need any qualifications to do it. You'll notice you'll have to upload, some things. You have to purchase some things to do it here, but you don't need any education. You don't have to pass any examinations. You don't have to do any apprenticeships or supervised practice. You just need to upload your insurance, your business registration, and it's mandatory. Certificates are the opposite. So, and we'll have some of those in the law. We didn't go over that a lot, but we'll offer some of those for folks who want to hold them out as green building experts or green building certified. Those are optional, but you need the qualifications in order to obtain them. You need to have certain training. You need to have certain examinations, and that's a certification then you can hold out to the public as, I have this experience, I have these qualifications, and the state has recognized that. Completely voluntary. You could do green building work without it, but it helps the marketplace and the public identify folks who have those qualifications. A license is a combination. You need qualifications to get it, and it's mandatory. So nurses, dentists, mental health professionals, engineers, those guys need to demonstrate they've gone to the schools, passed the examinations, done the supervised practice, and they have to obtain that license in order to practice as an engineer, as a dentist, as a pharmacist in the state. And thank you, Errol and Polly, for volunteering your license names as guinea pigs, or your corporate names as guinea pigs. And that, I think, concludes it. There any more questions? Or Tara or Bryn, did anything you want to add?
There was a question at the beginning about the slides, and if the slides in particular would be shared, and I just wanted to make sure we cover that question.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to PDF them and take out that extra blank slide, and I'll send those along to folks. So,
but I didn't have anything else. I think this is really awesome. Excellent questions, a lot of resources. And again, Laura and Tara are certainly available for additional help and assistance as needed.
and if I might mention,
I was going to mention the email, Lauren. Is that what you were just going to do?
sorry, Brenton, I think we have a lag. Yeah, I was just about to put in the chat our email for folks who have questions. It's a general one because we have 4 or 5 folks managing that box. So if somebody's out or not available, we should be able to get back to you within 1 to 3 business days.
And at the end there, you'll see a short survey. Again, it just helps to make sure that we're providing webinars and trainings that are relevant to your business, that are helpful, informative, and that we're able to provide additional trainings moving forward that are of interest to you. So it's really short survey. If you don't mind taking a minute or so to just respond with some thoughts, that's really helpful for us. And thank you for starting your day with us. Thank you so much, Lauren and Tara, for the information. I know that there's been a lot of questions and interest in this approaching April 1st deadline. So I just glad we can offer this. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for joining.
Yep.
Thanks.
Have a
Bye.
great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.